A blast from the past. I remember horse-drawn wagons, the junk man, the ice man, the man with the vegetables, and the calling voices on Hansborough Street in the Mattapan section of Boston where my grandmother lived on the middle floor of a triplex with my aunt and uncle. The knife and scissors grinder pushed his wheel-like barrow down the street, and later there was a man with a truck that had a small carousel on the back. A peddler sold decorative pot holders door to door. I made a dem myself. Ice cream cones were a nickel, with Jimmy, chocolate sprinkles, a penny more, and movies were 14 cents. Short subjects, cartoons, serials, news of the world, and a double feature, plus a dime for candy and 5 cents each way for the streetcar. I was heavily into reminiscing one day as I worked in the yard, struggling with Bermuda grass and recalling the invasive rice plants that grew in front of the Hollywood bungalow my wife Deborah and I shared with our firstborn daughter, Melissa. Sometimes the peanut fairy brought out treats from her closet at bedtime. There were fig trees in the backyard, and their fragrance drifted through the open bedroom door when we conceived our second daughter, Robin. My daydream was interrupted when our good friend Peter Mark and Helen Richmond dropped by on their way home from a weekend in Santa Barbara. Peter Mark, a noted actor, artist, and playwright, began talking about the new publishing experience he'd recently encountered. Something with computers called Ex Libris, a way for him to produce his long-delayed novel on the internet. I tried to appear interested. I'm an agnostic regarding computers. I've done a little word processing and played solitaire, but basically I'm burdened by what my beloved brother Roy calls the who cares test, as in, does whatever it is pass it? Concepts like downloading, chat room, hacking, networking, floppy disk, cyberspace, and hard drive I find deeply disturbing. And so as Peter Mark tried to explain the miracle and intricacies of electronic publishing, I found myself turning out, reflecting on the yard work, the simple pleasure of attacking the rice plants in Bermuda grass, the satisfaction of the direct, tactile, sensual experience, and the sense memories it prompted. My wife Deborah is legally blind, and computers have been a godsend for her, magnifying things, scanning things, and reading aloud. I'm very grateful for that. And I acknowledge that they provide valuable information highways for students, teachers, researchers, and business people. But they do not engage me, and it's not a generational thing because my chums Joe and Renee and Harry, and practically everyone else I know, are dedicated and evangelical. Me? I steer clear of eBay. I relish the experience of shopping in mom-and-pop stores, and having lunch at B&G's Cafe in downtown Oxnard, and chatting with Bill and Gloria, who've run the place for 29 years, and have it up for sale, but are holding out for just the right buyer to carry on their family tradition, and who still greet almost everyone by name, just as in Cheers, and where they automatically bring you the usual. At the bank, Sonia says, "Hi, Mr. Rogosin," and so do people like Holly at the supermarket, where Gil, another one of the checkers, is retiring after 35 years, and has hand-lettered a sign near his checkout stand. "I'm Gil, and I've been here since 1964, before some of you were born, and I'm retiring tomorrow. Goodbye." My wife and I argue about computers. She says things like, "If you only tried," or "If you just let me," and I hear the Bermuda grass urgently calling. Does it make me a bad person? Am I just intellectually lazy? I don't know. What I do know is that I find computerism, insidious, impersonal, unreliable, sterile, and perhaps immoral. Deborah signed me up with a Yahoo, give me a break, password, but I won't remember it. And I don't have to worry about spam or crashing or viruses, or volumes of email, because I call my friends and family on the phone and enjoy their own real, familiar voices, filled with affection and emotion. If they're angry, I don't have to stop to type, "Stop shouting." I can just ask them to lighten up. My attention span at the computer is limited, and my mind wanders off to unrelated things like Bermuda grass and rice plants, and to the cornfield I hand-tilled and planted in the backyard below our house after my third daughter Susan was born, and how the kids would get lost in the corn when we sent them down to pick some for supper. I want to say thank you, Peter Mark. I owe you. You helped me recognize that, after all, Ex Libris does have importance for me. It was the label I found in my father's books when I began to discover them. Ex Libris, Irving Rogosin. I wrote that section some time ago on an electric typewriter, for which I gave up my old, manual, mostly reliable Royal with great reluctance. It was published in the Ventura County Star in June 2000. Since then, Deborah has been dragging me, kicking and screaming, into the 21st century and up to a computer screen. The keyboard, at least, is somewhat familiar. Still, I can't help feeling that I was in control of my old Royal, and now the computer is in control of me.